Now we're going to get back to osmosis and deal with the three types of osmotic solutions. Osmosis, again, is the diffusion of water and just water. The cell membrane cannot control the amount of water that enters and leaves the cell because water molecules are too small and there are too many of them. So our three solutions begins with hypotonic. A hypotonic solution, this is a cell right here, has more water outside the cell than inside the cell. Higher concentration of water outside the cell than inside the cell. In this case, water is going to move from where there's a lot of it to where there's not a lot of it. So water is going to move into the cell. That is going to cause the cell to swell. Now, in certain cells, like animal cells, if it swells too much, it can burst, and the bursting is called cytolysis. Hypertonic is just the opposite. In this case, there's a higher concentration of water molecules inside the cell than outside the cell. In this case, water is going to move out of the cell because it's moving from high to low. So there's more inside than outside. It's going to move out of the cell, and the cell is going to shrink. That's called plasmolysis. Isotonic is when there's an equal amount of water inside and outside the cell. That means water is going to move in both directions equally. That means it's in a dynamic equilibrium. Water is moving in and out equally. That is what we want with our cells in a normal condition. Here's another little review. Hypertonic, more water inside than outside, so water is going to move out and the cell is going to shrink. B represents isotonic. There's an equal amount of water inside as outside the cell, so water is going to move in and out equally. It's going to be in equilibrium. In C, hypotonic. There is more water outside the cell than inside the cell, so water is going to move into the cell and the cell is going to swell. Again, with animal cells, they can burst if there is too much water. Okay, now how do organisms deal with osmotic pressures? First off, plant and animal cells have cell walls that prevent them from overexpanding. So if you look at this picture, with the animal cell, it can burst. Again, that's cytolysis. But with the plant cell, this cell wall, because it provides extra structure and support, the central vacuole is going to fill with water and it's going to exert turgor pressure, so just the water pressure, turgor pressure, onto the cell walls. This is actually what helps plants like tulips and daisies remain upright. Now, let's talk a little bit about fish. Saltwater fish have very specialized gills that are going to pump out salt to keep the fish from dehydrating. So again, saltwater fish have specialized gills so that they do not dehydrate. If you put a saltwater fish into freshwater, it will drown because suddenly it has too much water and the water is going to move into the fish. Well, if you put a freshwater fish into salt water, it's going to dehydrate because it doesn't have specialized gills that are going to pump out the salt, and the fish is actually going to lose water, just as if you were drinking salt water. Okay, if you're in the ocean, you would dehydrate. Now, our bodies help maintain an isotonic solution by using our blood and our kidneys. Our blood is what bathes all of our cells. It contains a lot of water. And if we eat too much salt, like you go to McDonald's and you get a little too much salt on your large French fry, okay, your body is going to react. Okay, it's going to start retaining more water. It's going to swell a little. And how your body deals with this is your kidneys will actually start to filter your blood, and it's going to filter out the excess salt and it's going to filter out the excess water, and that's what's going to make you pee. If you eat a lot of salty foods, okay, you usually are really thirsty, you drink a lot, and next thing you know, your kidneys are filtering and you're having to go to the bathroom a lot. And that concludes all of our notes for chapter 3. So make sure you're studying all of this for your Chapter 3 test. Okay, from the parts of the cell to the cell membrane, all the way through passive and active transport.